Sweet. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Hangout session, a little Research Week preview for you. If you haven't gotten your tickets already, head over to joinlearners.com/research-week, where you will hear from amazing people like the individual joining me today. His name is Kevin Newton. He's coming from LinkedIn. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure as always. So Kevin, you're talking a bit about, you're going to be talking part of our AI program, which is happening on the Tuesday. There's a ton of, it's such an exciting space. You've been probably just bamboozled with all the new developments and tools and everything. How are you keeping up okay? Are you surviving?
It's hard. It's hard. It seems like every day there's a new one out there. In fact, we just found out another team had an AI software, so we got some seats on that, and we're trying that out. It seems like, yeah, there's a lot of energy in the air. It's crackling.
Have you ever found that your team and someone else's team are using tools that do the same thing that are competitive? Is that like a thing that's happening right now?
It is, yeah, because everyone's that's the thing. So everyone's almost going rogue. It's like they don't want anyone to know what they're doing. They're almost sort of hiding it, and then maybe they're testing it out before they let everyone know. And so, yeah, we've definitely found that. In fact, the one that we got was a competitive tool for something that we're using. So we're testing them both.
That's hilarious. What before we get into it, I'd love to know what's your vibe? Like, what do you feel about this AI software explosion and whatnot? It must be exciting. Do you feel a little bit anxious? Do you feel a little concerned? Like, where's your vibe at in general with this new explosion of AI tooling in the UX space?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me personally, I couldn't be more excited. I think that this is sort of the next evolution of research, and I think it's going to change our job in a lot of ways. We can talk about that, but I think ultimately we need to embrace it and figure out how to make ourselves like super researchers and super business, savvy individuals. So I know a lot of my colleagues don't share that excitement to the level at which I share it. And in fact, I have a colleague at LinkedIn who is on the other end of the spectrum, and we balance each other out a lot because we'll get together and talk about it. And I'm super excited, and she's like, and so we sort of meet in the middle that way.
That seems healthy. Hopefully it's like nice conversations. I feel like on LinkedIn, sometimes it's hard to have more productive, thoughtful disagreements. But maybe
It's
at LinkedIn,
spicy.
working together, it's a little better.
It's a little better, definitely better.
That's
Absolutely.
fun. When you think, so you give me a quick overview of the sort of mandate that you have in your role, and then I want to follow up a little bit with some questions about metrics.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I lead the UX measurements team at LinkedIn. And so our basic mandate is to try and measure the experience at scale. And so we have a largely qualitative team. That's what we built our foundation on. And so this team is new, about a year and a half, almost 2 years old. And we're trying to move into the quantitative space to get more of that sort of breadth on top of the depth. And so so we're trying to provide metrics that complement the behavioral metrics that we see, right? Because we all know you can increase clicks, but if you're increasing clicks, but it's causing frustration or it's causing, or increased dwell time, but people are only dwelling because they can't find what they want, that's not going to be a long-term metric, long-term success. And so we're trying to add that color to see are the behavioral metrics really telling us what we think they're telling us.
It's funny. I can think of a few examples from some very large companies where you can tell that there was a PM that was had to optimize for like number of clicks or number of I think a fun one is the Google Calendar before they really started taking like these like Google Meet too seriously, and everyone was using Zoom, and then the Google Meet button started getting bigger and bigger, and then now it's auto added to every calendar, unless you have like a Zoom integration, I guess, or something like that. It's
Right.
auto added to every meeting with somebody, which I guess,
I mean,
that gets the job done.
yeah, I guess so. They eventually found it out, but I bet that bigger and bigger button, you
Yeah.
know, was maybe not perceived the way they thought it would be perceived.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. So the types of things that you're measuring, are these like predominantly in product qualitative surveys?
Yeah. So we do in-product ratings and then some follow-up on the qualitative, and then we also do benchmarking on our most critical tasks. And so that's unmoderated, sort of in a lab environment where we ask people to go through certain flows and then ask them, ease of use, confidence, and a couple of other emotions that matter for LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And then we track that every 6 months or so.
So you'll do like some intensive in-person lab-esque study where people are just going through the
That's it.
flows, and then you can compare, every, I guess, half of the year.
Yep.
Did we
What's
did we
gotten
really
better?
fuck up a flow with
Exactly.
some of our recent
Exactly.
releases, or is it all good?
100%. That's the idea. That's right.
Have
And
you
then and
ever,
then the end product we're
yeah,
monitoring, on a real time.
have you ever found that somewhere the product team really blew up a flow really badly, and maybe you can't say, but
Not yet.
okay,
We'll say that.
have they
Lots
come
lots is
close?
changing though, right?
Yeah.
Lots is changing. We're constantly adding features, taking away features sometimes. Um, and so it's bound to happen. And
Yeah.
again, this is a new team, so we'll see.
How many years has it been together?
A year and a half.
Year and a half? Okay.
Yeah. So we're actually, because we had to do the foundations for the first 6 months, getting everybody excited and set up. So we're actually only running our second benchmark literally right now. We're collecting
Oh,
data.
really?
Yeah. So we'll see.
Huh. Well, it must be interesting for you, given exactly the types of studies that you're running, to see this new AI stuff come out. Because this must be like, opening Pandora's box for you in a good way, right? Which is, I can now analyze and evaluate stuff in ways that was never possible before.
100%. 100%. And it's supercharging our team too in the data science realm, because although, as we hire new people to the team, which we are hiring 2 people right now, we we'll look for more of the SQL and R and sort of data science background because we know what we're doing with this team
Mhm.
now. But when it first started, we just pulled some mixed methods people onto the team, said, hey, let's figure this out. And now with AI, it's really supercharging our SQL abilities because, we have a base knowledge, but AI is helping us craft that code so we can dig into the data warehouse
Are
in
are
ways we
you
never could.
Yeah, are you finding that like now it doesn't matter having that R background, for example, because you can just go to Claude or ChatGPT and say, write me the query, please.
Yep.
Here's what I
Yep.
want.
And that's the ways I think it's going to change our industry and change sort of who we are as researchers and what we need to know and what we bring to the table. And I think we got to be honest with ourselves about that.
I think that's mostly a good thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Like if you think about to me, I always thought, and I don't know how common this is, but um, I know that on a lot of teams, when they've evaluated potential hires, they're looking at, do you know what an interview is? Do you know how to write a survey and how many options should be in the survey question and all that stuff? To me, I've always thought that like the most important um, core skill is this critical thinking and analytical skill, where you can I design a study that controls for X and Y, which I want to hold constant and allows me to explore topics A, B, and C. And how do I evaluate the evidence that comes back? What do I need to know about the person? What do I need to know about their environment? What do I need to know about whatever? And then obviously what they say about the product or problem that you're talking about. And I feel like this is going to be a fairly empowering technology to folks that have strength there. But for example, in my case, the syntax always murdered me in
Yes.
anything software related. When I've tried a few times and whatnot, and like I'd be missing an end bracket, and I
Right.
just wanted to throw my computer against the wall because I couldn't figure it out. But now, someone else, the AIs are going to do it for you, right? So you just need to have
100%.
that really strong critical reasoning.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And the passion to do it. I think that's key. And I think it's always been higher on my list when I'm hiring people is, do they want to do the job? Do they want to be here? Do they want to figure it out because I could teach all of the hard skills, almost all of the hard skills, but
Hmm.
it's that mindset, and it's sort of what you were saying, the researcher mindset of curiosity. Do you know the right questions to ask? Do you know the right sort of how to dig in? And then, yeah, especially with AI, it's just made it easier. It's like, yeah, okay, we can teach you R. That's easy.
Do you think it's fundamentally the same thing, or the same core skill set between someone that's more on the metrics oriented side of things versus your colleagues who are running a ton of interviews and that sort of thing? Are we do you see yourself as this is
Splitting?
all the same? It's just like I play in this area, they play in that area.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely the goal is the same, right? I mean, I think that's the key is that we're all trying to figure out what's the real story out
Hmm.
there, or at least the story in the moment. Um, but I used to think, and maybe I still do. I mean, yeah, I don't know. You're challenging me here right now. So I think I used to think of them as very different because you do have to have that sort of statistical knowledge, right? So
Hmm.
inferential statistics, you know, do a t-test and confidence intervals, all of that, which you don't have if you're heavily qualitative. But I think now you use, right, you can use AI to do thematic analysis on the qualitative side. You can use AI to write the code for R. So it's like the lines are getting blurred. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where do you see so you on all the metric stuff that you're tracking and whatnot, right? So there's kind of the way I look at the deployment of all this AI stuff. There's the initial deployment, which is we can efficientize
Mm,
our X and Y process that we're already doing today, right?
yeah.
But then there's this like the next leap, which is what are the things we're not doing today because we can't do them, but would be really cool to do them. Are there things that kind of come to mind for you where you're like, man, I think we're like 9 months away from me being able to try whatever?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I do think that that's true. And I think I think of it as on an individual level. So one thing that I'm actually playing with right now is putting sort of all of my uh, notes and all of my meeting transcripts and all of my reports and walking decks into a project and an AI engine basically, and having it sort of look through and tell me where to focus or what I should tell my team, right? So I might put it in and be like, hey, like look at Jake's stuff and then tell me, and then look at the company strategy and like tell me, what's the best focus area that I could help
Yeah.
them out on, right?
I have seen some implementations of stuff like that, or um, not. I haven't seen them directly, but reports. And I know somebody who's working on something kind of like that for design critiques, where you have like an avatar of a
Hmm.
person who is an important stakeholder that you can just have in your design process, right?
I love
And
that.
I think that's just really neat, right? And the point is not to replace that person, but
No,
it's more how do I keep their vibe, their spirit, in my workflow at key moments when I want 10 minutes of what the types of
yes.
things that they would say, right? Because I'm only focused on my own creative process. And I thought that was really a really interesting example of something that we didn't have before. But you can imagine implementations of that for yourself, right? In your situation where you don't have time to meet with every qual researcher, to
Absolutely.
tell them I'm interested in X or Y, or make sure you talk about this, and you just have an avatar of yourself that says, "Hey, can you track this for me?" or sort of
That's
thing
it.
like that,
Yep. And
preemptively.
I had, yeah, just worked on that Friday too. And then I tested it right before I shut down for the weekend. And yeah, I was like, hey, what is Kevin's team working on? And it listed it out pretty good. So I am working on that as well. I mean, a number of us are working on that in LinkedIn. This wasn't my idea, which is key actually came from an internal tools PM, the one who's sort of shepherding in a lot of our major AI rollouts that are like
Hmm.
company wide. He had this idea, and so yeah, you just point this agent towards your documents, and then you can ask it questions as if it were me, and hopefully
Hmm.
the idea is that it would answer it. And then If not, it'll say, you can message Kevin on Slack at this handle.
Yeah. One of the other things that I think is interesting, I saw a Twitter thread about it that ties into this, is someone was contracted out to build a essentially like reporting AIs that will join all your meetings and like be present on Slack, and then just like compile, okay, here's what Kevin did this week, and push it
Yes.
up to the executive level. And apparently the feedback was, this is the most helpful summary of like what's going on the team that I've ever seen or heard of. Because obviously, when you're doing the work, you're not like trying to do the work and also think about, what am I going to tell my manager?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you get in the weeds and you're like, oh yeah, what did I do? Like what exactly, or what's the most important thing that I did? And I think especially on the leadership level, where you're not an IC, where you're not, I produced this report or I did this thing. It would be interesting from a user experience standpoint, like how do employees feel about that? Because it almost feels right, like Big Brother's watching you. It's like it's sort of like it's compiling all of your activity, which, if you're doing your job, I guess there's nothing to worry about. But it would be interesting as that sort of stuff becomes more popular. Do employees get weird about it?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there already are there's already software out there that will like monitor your
Absolutely.
computer, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but then the funny thing to think about too is like, what's the AI version of the keystroker thing or whatever? It just like randomly taps, moves your
Exactly.
mouse, tap,
Yeah.
which I don't even know what that would be, right? Like maybe you got to get an AI of yourself on calls with other AIs, summarized by the AI, passed up the chain to the report, and wow, this person was so busy this week. Look at all the calls they did.
Look at all the
And
calls,
it's
and
all,
look at and then that actual production though, right? I mean, at what point is half of our day going to be agents, and then are we expected to be then more productive, or are we like, oh, I'm going to start at noon because my agent can take care of everything in the morning, and then I'll join the second half of the day?
it'll be super interesting to think about like what happens with contractors, because
Mm,
they have the most flexibility, right? If you're an employee, you
yeah,
have, there's things that your employer can say, like you have to be in the office, you have to show up to all hands, you have to whatever. Contractors obviously have a lot more flexibility, where I have a deliverable that I'm expected to whatever.
yeah,
And the neat thing about it is you would expect that as a contractor, let's say you're able to do 4 times as many projects,
right,
right? Well, that means you can also bid on them a much lower price, right?
yeah,
However you're pricing it. And so then the cost of the output that you want goes down,
mm-hmm,
right? So
mm-hmm,
initially there's probably some work displacement and whatnot, but then quickly the cost of that goes down. And so then that might be the way that these like AI agents just start becoming more prevalent, is through working with contractors or something like that, because that's where you have the most flexibility to try new things.
yeah. Well, there's an agency where you knowingly hire an AI agent, uh, and your job as the owner of the agency is just to deploy these agents to different
Mm-hmm.
companies.
I've
Could
seen
get
job
pretty
postings.
wild.
Have you seen any job postings now with open to humans or AIs, if your AI
Oh,
can do this? Yeah,
no,
I saw a couple. It was
it's
super
coming. I
weird.
mean, how could it not come? I mean, there's so much evidence out there. I mean, our founder, Reid Hoffman, if anyone follows his story, he has an AI digital double that does interviews,
Yeah,
podcasts, all of this. So,
I
you
watched
know,
it. It felt weird. I didn't actually
feels
like
weird.
it at all.
It feels
Um,
weird.
on the like podcast side of things,
Yeah.
it doesn't do it
But
for me. I think it would
he's an
be.
early adopter though, right? I mean, what
This is
about in
true.
5 years? I mean,
Look, who knows?
who
Honestly,
knows?
I don't
I
even
don't
have
know.
a good sense of like what kind of exponential curve we're on right now.
It's true.
I'm like just
It's nuts.
watching them. Yeah, it's pretty insane. But it is interesting to me, like, because anything where the product, the value is like purely utilitarian, like purely
Yeah,
functional, right? Those are obviously going to be very those will be areas where you can really deploy AI agents without
100%.
and they'll be able to work, and there won't be any issues. I think the interesting thing is to find out what parts of work or our lives are actually experiential when we thought that they were functional, and that to me is a really exciting
That's the key
idea,
part.
right? Because for me,
Yeah,
like the podcast example, I think I can't say for sure, but I think I'm 0% interested in listening to AI podcasts, or at least
yeah,
AI avatars of real people. I don't actually care what they have to say. It's not fun to
makes
listen
sense.
to for me, right? Um, but
No, that makes sense.
it'd be interesting to
It's
see if that holds true for other people too, because I just don't care.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't either. I mean, I think it's not entertaining, right? Especially if you know. Now, here would be the good experiment is like you play podcasts to subjects
Yeah.
and see if they know, right? So it's like this is an AI one, like because if you know, I think it definitely diminishes it because you know that this isn't a human experience that you're listening to, and this story isn't being told by a human. It's fabricated
Mm-hmm.
by a model who's picking the next best word.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know, could you tell? Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I think today you could. You could definitely tell. I
Yeah,
think
I
there's
think
it's very
you for
today you
sure.
definitely can. Yeah. But in the future, will you be able to? Probably, because I think you're right. Like this is a human connection, right? That we're making right here on this podcast. Like we're ebbing and flowing off of each other as human beings, and we're, feeling excited and thoughtful and introspective. The AI can't do that, and it won't bring the same thing probably ever.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. Well, it's funny if you like think about the jobs that are the most safe from AI.
Mm,
I think I think things like, first of all, like baristas,
yeah,
bartenders, 100% safe, purely
yeah.
experiential and whatnot. But I think like even things like, I know that you can generate AI music right now, and
Mm-hmm,
it'll sound like real music,
mm-hmm.
because it's mimicking it, and
Sure.
maybe it's weird to say that it's not real music. I guess it is. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think over time we'll value the messy human stuff even more, right?
Agreed. I think that's where we'll be moving. And I think what if, you know, again, I don't know the curve, but in
Mhm.
X amount of years, right, people are drawn to live performances
Yeah,
or, that sort of stuff where it's real because even like I said, with the podcast and stuff like that, if you're listening to it and it's not disclosed and you don't know in the music, you're listening to it, you may or may not know, especially with all the electronic music out there already using synthesizers, stuff like that. Like
yeah.
you may not know, but if you go to a live performance, you see this person, then you know that even if it was generated by AI, it's being played live. Like maybe it was written and composed by AI, but it's being performed live.
It even and tying it back to the research side of things, like it would stand to reason that while I fully believe that there will be deployment of massive amounts of AI moderated interviews and research,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it'll probably dwarf the amount of human led interviews and stuff like that, because there's no constraint on a human's time.
Yeah.
However, I think that there will still be a real highly valued art to uh, to being able to go and interview people in person and make those human connections, where people will be willing to share, if you're really good at it, things
Yeah.
that they wouldn't share with the AI, or
100%.
even be able to share with the AI, right?
I agree. Then the question becomes, when is that authenticity necessary,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if
Well,
there are times when maybe it's okay that you
this is the
get,
crux of the whole thing, right?
yeah,
And I think there's been times in recent memory for me where I've had to do relatively mundane research, and I
sure,
fucking hate it.
sure,
I don't enjoy it
absolutely.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
doing usability tests, I just don't enjoy it, right? Because in my mind, I'm like, I know where they're going to. We've done 2 already. I know all the areas are going to mess it up. I
Yep.
don't really want to have to like do it 10 more times just to say, hey, look, 8 out of 10 messed it
Mm-hmm.
up
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Like we can just say, hey, the first 2 screwed this up. Let's just fix it. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
There's no. I don't want to ever do that again. I'd rather lose my job to the AI on that stuff. Like it's much more interesting and fun, I think, to explore these really hairy, messy topics, that really get to the core of what makes us who we are. That I think even if an AI was capable of doing it, I'm not sure a human will feel comfortable sharing that with it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What yeah, exactly. And it may be more either non-digital entirely or the intersect between, non-digital and digital. Because I mean, the user experience of, you know, experiencing a car, for example, maybe buying a
Mhm.
car, driving the car, in the car, it's like no AI is gonna capture that. You got to be there with them to feel the excitement, to ask the questions, to get into
Yeah.
their experience. And so definitely on the non-digital side. But then you think for cars, a good example actually, because then it has a bunch of digital capabilities, especially today, is more and more digital. So then that UX researcher actually needs to go and probably experience, in the moment what they're experiencing. So I think there's avenues, but ecom, like, is there any time for ecom where, on the digital side that you need that level of depth, or do
Probably
you just need to
probably not on the
understand
evaluation side of things,
right on the
right?
evaluation side? Yeah.
I mean,
The emotion side, why they're buying it,
yeah.
what brought them there. Obviously, yeah, that's a definitely needed.
I think it just
Yeah.
depends on if there's work to be done when you get to the website, right? Like if are we browsing? Are we trying to find
Mm-hmm.
something? Are we, whatever. But I think, even as far as I'm concerned, the checkout experience is like kind of
Right.
solved, right? Like if
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
use the shop pay thing, I think it's just one button. You just press a button and it's bought.
Yep.
Same on Amazon, right? Like we don't
Yeah.
need to do that. We don't need to innovate on that. I mean, or rather we should let Amazon and Shopify figure out what the
Exactly.
next version of this is so that I don't
Yep.
have to.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that's interesting.
With
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say with the AI too, there's like the searching for it also is like is going to become less and less. The discoverability of what you want is going to become less and less important too, because you just go and say in natural language and it shows you
Yeah.
where to go on the website.
I've also noticed using it more recently that the AI is doing a much better job of like trying to lead you to the next step. It's almost like it's been given
Mm-hmm.
a prompt, which is like figure out, like say you, I don't know, you hit your toe really hard on something,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And you take a picture of it
It's the
and
worst.
you upload it to ChatGPT and it's like, hey, here's what I think is wrong with whatever. But now it's saying, would you like me to connect you to the nearest clinic? Right? Here's 5
Yes.
options. Would you like me to make an appointment? Would you
Right.
like me to whatever? Do you want me to see when the next one available is? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that is an interesting thing as well. The implications of what I still don't know yet.
Yeah, no, that's wild. I've also noticed that I use ChatGPT on my personal account for a lot of creative stuff, just as a brainstorming partner. And it's also, I've noticed lately that it's more encouraging about going to the next step, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, yeah, do you want to do this next? Like, let's talk about this thing next, or let's move on to this part of what we're creating together. You're doing
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, you're so good looking. You're so
You're so good.
charming.
I know you're so good looking. I was telling there's this conference prompt, and I took the conference prompt and I put it in my chat GPT because it has memory, it knows what you talk about to it and all that. And I asked them like, hey, could I talk at this conference? This is the prompt. And it was like, not only can you should. Here's what you should do. You're amazing. And it like put it all out. I'm like,
Should
okay,
I quit my job and become a
I know.
stand-up comic? Absolutely. You're so
Absolutely, you should.
funny. All right, we still need some
Hilarious.
humans for now to
Yeah.
pump the brakes on your
Oh
friend
gosh,
dropping out from their
that's
job to
right.
become a comic. Okay, give me one thing before we bounce. Give me
Yeah.
one thing that you're most excited to talk to everyone about
Mm,
and share with
yes.
everyone in your talk?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm really excited to share the examples that we use at LinkedIn, but also how we encouraged our team to be more transparent, to lean in more, to be more systematic. I think there's, yeah, if I'm reading the room right, I think there's just a lot of companies where all of this is happening sort of either in secret completely or in a way that's so disjointed and sort of just like, I'm trying this, now I'm trying this, now I'm trying this. And it's like there's no path to move forward. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we figured some of it out anyway. For now, it could change in 6 months, but for now, we've figured out a path, and I'm excited to share our journey and hopefully inspire some people to start their own.
Love to hear it. Folks, you're not going to want to miss Kevin and Marika from LinkedIn, who are both going to be talking together about empowering teams to experiment with AI and figure out how to make it work for you. If you haven't already, there are still opportunities to sign up for the remote viewing. So head over to joinlearners.com/research week, joinlearners.com/research-week. To grab a spot and make sure that you grab that ticket so you're ready to go. And don't forget, no research. We're not doing any research that week. That is a pure inspiration, fun, and learning and connection week. So you can tell your manager, your boss's boss, whoever needs to know that you're going to be leveling up from the 2nd to the 5th. Don't put anything else on your plate.
Love it.
Cool. All right. Thanks for joining,
Amazing.
Kevin. I'm going to see you in a
Thanks,
few
Alec.
weeks. Talk
Thanks
to
for
you
having
later.
me. Bye.
Bye.